couple of times, after a couple of times coming up, somebody told me that we ought to go a little farther north and take a look at the Point Conception area. So I think it was Stubbs had the car, and Hobie, and Cavell, and it might have been Patterson. We came up, and Rincon was good. There's really no reason to leave. But we had this tout, and we had to go find out about it. So we packed it up, stayed at the, let's see, we stayed at the car park, slept there that night. Or maybe even on Rincon Point. There were some vacant lots there when you could do that. And we got up in the morning, we drove all the way up to the ranch. Of course, you drove right into the gate, you didn't even know, just dirt road going in there. And it was a beautiful day, and we're starting to go in, and the very first place I see is what we now call the trestle, third trestle. Man, the waves were big there. But no, we're supposed to go farther north. It's supposed to be better up farther. So we keep driving. It takes a long time to get up there, about an hour and 20 minutes from the gate at that time. There was no gate, but anyway, from Gaviota. We keep driving. You're kind of inland for a long ways. You really don't see the coastline. We finally come out, and here we are at Coho. Oh boy. It's supposed to be really good. It was about 1 foot. We hung around, and it got even smaller, low tide. Finally, we packed it up, went back, drove all the way back. As we're going by, I'm saying, you know, these places we drove by, they're still good. Why didn't we stop down here at Surf Hills? No, they're supposed to go to Government and Coho. Those are supposed to be the named places to go to. That was my first trip in there. Went back down to Rincon the next day. It was a classic 6 foot. Why did we waste all our time going up there and doing it? So anyway, when I finally move up here in '59, the summers, of course, are bleak in Santa Barbara. We got to figure out where to surf up there. Ran into the local surfers. In fact, I made, I think, six or 8 boards for the local surfers. I saturated the market. I was still making surfboards for a lot of the guys that, when I worked for Velzy down there, they liked the thin boards that I made. So a lot of them would come up and I would make boards for them. So that kind of kept me going during the summer months when I wasn't fishing. And I started running into these local guys that, you know, I was making boards for. I said, well, what do you guys do anything about surfing up here in the summer, other than what I saw when I was up there at Government Point, Coho? He says, yeah, it gets a lot more surf up there in the summer. So we just started going up there. The local guys, mostly hazards, in Clayton, in Perco, in the, I'm trying to think of some of the names. Anyway,
Bradbury.
Yeah, well, a little before John.
Stu Fred
before his time.
Pete Miller.
No, even before them. Gary Conley. Anyway, so we figured it out. The place gets surfed in the summer. The waves come through the gaps in the islands or around Government and through San Miguel and Santa Rosa in the summer. And then we started figuring out the tides. You know, the low tide versus the high tide. And of course the offshore winds. This took a bunch of time. So eventually there was a pretty good group going. It was going to go up, we were going up there. And at that time there was this organization called the Federated Sportsmen's Club. And I think it was archery guys, divers, and guys that shot guns and things like that. And there was kind of a conglomeration of them. They called it the Federated Sportsmen. Is that correct, Bob?
Santa Barbara Sportsmen.
Yeah. So Hollister didn't care. As long as the local guys were using it, they thought that was really bitchin'. That was good. That's what he wanted us to do, enjoy it. Eventually, some of the guys from South Bay started coming up there, and didn't really dig what we were doing, or were kind of upset the fact that it was ours and it wasn't theirs. So they started leaving their marks, you might say, up there. Some of them are defecating in the railroad train depots that are at Perco's and trashing the place. Pretty good. So finally, Hollister's got along and says, you know, we're tired of this stuff. We don't want anymore. You know, your servers have a bad image, really crappy image. So I think it was Arlen or somebody got wind of it and said, you know, we're out of there if we don't do something about it. So we tried to get a bunch of guys together, and we had a hell of a time getting, I think, 15 guys together. Is that right, Bobby?
Yeah.
I think it was 15 guys. We had a hard time. We had to come up with a liability insurance, a policy to say, if you're going to use it, you're responsible. You can't sue us for your damages that you incurred. So we got the insurance policy, and I don't think we had to have even a gate guard at that time. And that satisfied them. It just cost us for the insurance policy. So that was the start of the Santa Barbara County Surf Club. I think probably about 61 or 2, something like that. Of course, it kind of blew up after that. Everybody wanted into it. It took a little time. And then I think by the time we hit it, I think we capped it at about 100. Something like that.
It was 80.
Somewhere around, but close to 100 before it exploded. And then they sold the ranch and all that. A lot of good memories. You know, it was really a primitive place. It was great going in there in the dirt road. The cowboys, dealing with Floyd up at Bixby. That was a good era. And it turns out that Floyd wasn't really upset at us. He was just upset at the other people that were coming in there and trashing the thing. And then when he got realizing that we were taking care of ourselves and wanted to have a really good image of what we were doing, he says, you know, those guys aren't so bad. And we go up there, and the deal was we had to wait till late afternoon for the wind to quit and surf, you know, the late till sundown. It was really bitching, and leave. And Floyd would come down with his cowboys with their half planks in the back pocket and come down and have a toke while some of the other guys are having a smoke and surf in the late afternoon. And we got along great at the very last part of the whole thing. So it was a kind of a bitchy relationship between us in the end. The ranch, yeah. George Greeno and I, we fished lobsters up there. 63, 4, 5, 6. George probably did it for 4 years. I did it for at least 2. And we'd be up there all day long, day after day after day after, not a soul around. Not a living soul around there. Lucas would drive up once in a while, up the beach with his hot rod. See him once in a while. I'd be there all day long. Good surf, nobody there. Good times. That's the first part. The rest of it goes downhill.
That's John Eichert. When we made boards, John thinks it was like 6 or 7, and we saturated the market. And
There was 6 surfers and we made 7 boards.
and so John also, even though he was making boards, he worked for Rennie, and it was kind of like, I don't know, when the business went a little sour, John would work for you. There was almost all of our surfing background was you either worked for Starbrook Cleaners, or for Rennie, or for John. John had his shop, and it was just a really wonderful period of time in Santa Barbara.